DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, J Gilbo 11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J Clay. Taking a look at tonight's 9-game Thursday slate. And if you're looking for pitching info, we did our pitcher nail down already. It's up on the site. But looking at pitching or position players here on DraftKings, and I mean, it's a night to really kind of dive into value just with the arms on this slate.
Definitely. I think you have some major decisions to make in cash. Hopefully it's not a Cubs stack and they're not on the slate. So hopefully you're really not doing that. Like we've kind of been doing the last 2 days. So thankful for that. And we're moving forward, moving on. We found a new woman, and it's a slate with non-Cubs.
Looking at catching here, and I mean, there's one guy I'm intrigued with up top, but it's still Yan Gomes. The price is a little bit steeper than what I like. But overall, I mean, I think it's pretty favorable.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know we're looking for value tonight, but I actually like McCann and Gomes up there at 38 and 3,700. I think they're both pretty solid values for their price.
Yeah, definitely. I think if I'm going low, it's going to be Stephen Vogt, 3,100. You just look against Nova. Nova's really struggled over the last few years. A lot of 364 woe with the lefties. You look at Vogt, I mean, a slow start to the season, but overall, I mean, in that span, 177 ISO. I just think at that price tag, he's pretty solid.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call. For punt plays, Tyler Flowers, I think some of these one-off cheap Atlanta bats have kind of been hitting lately. I think he's an interesting player to even save more off of Vogt. But yeah, Vogt obviously over him.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good call. Flowers, 2,800 there. I definitely like that. And overall, I mean, there's not too many options you're getting excited about. I mean, Cervelli, if you're going with the Pirate stack, would kind of fit in. So, looking at first base here, and there's not a lot of expensive options. I really like Jose Abreu here in tournaments tonight, 4,200. You're just looking at McHugh. I mean, he's been shelled this season. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of these guys, I mean, you look at Encarnacion, you look at Votto, Pujols, Abreu. I mean, they haven't exactly lit the world on fire this season, so they're kind of all in the same boat. And I think now you just, because that's happened, you kind of look and just go, all right, who has the best matchup? And for me, it's Votto and Abreu. I think those are the two I'm really leaning on.
I agree with you. I like White Sox as a whole tonight, so I'm okay with stacking them. But Abreu as a standalone is totally fine with me as well. And his price isn't too inflated. I mean, for the past few slates, we've been paying big prices for those first and third basemen, and doesn't seem like we have to do that today.
Yeah, I know. It's nice. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, no one's over 4,500. You're getting Votto at 4K. One guy who I like as a GPP play is Brandon Belt, 3,800, going up against Shields. Shields has been pretty home run prone of late, or, really, I mean, going back to last year in his time at Petco. And Belt, I mean, big 205 ISO numbers off of right-handed pitching. And Petco, I mean, yes, it's a pitcher-friendly park, but also lefties, it's pretty average for power, so it's not necessarily a downgrade for Belt.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you on that, and that saves you a little bit off the top. But again, you are going to be paying up for pitching for the most part, so getting these 4K guys in there, it might be a little tougher, but I think Abreu's worth it. And maybe you pay down a little bit somewhere else, but I actually do think he'd be worth it in a potential cash lineup.
Yeah, and I don't even mind John Jaso at 3,500. I mean, I think that's a solid price for him, and I mean, that's probably the biggest difference is about the low as I'll go.
Right.
But I'm with you. I think paying up for Votto and Abreu is kind of an easy move there.
Yeah, I think you look at maybe a Billy Butler, 3,300, something like that, if you're looking to pay down. But there are some decent options here.
Yeah. And second base, I mean, Jason Kipnis is kind of your top option there, but carries kind of a really heavy price tag, 4,900. Not quite sure if that fits into my laps tonight, even though he's kind of that top option.
Yeah, no, he's definitely the top option. I mean, obviously Altuve is going against Sale, so that's a tough one for him. Daniel Murphy sitting at 4K, even 6K less than when I liked his price yesterday. So he's going against his former team, Narrative Street. Matt Harvey. What are we looking at here? Is this a decent shot for him, or is he 4K for a reason?
Uh, he's 4K for a reason. I
Yeah.
can't see. I don't think I find myself playing any guys from this lineup with these two arms on the hill.
Yeah,
This
I'm
game
with
might end
you.
0-0.
But it's fun to see him at 4K, that's for sure.
It is, especially with how hot he's been this
Yeah.
year.
Yep.
One guy I do like is Brandon Phillips, 3,800. Tomlin's been kind of a reverse splits guy, and Phillips has hit well this season. 344 WOBA, but Tomlin 357 WOBA allowed since 2014 to right-handers. 1.89 home runs per nine. We talked about Tomlin on the pitching pod about how he's so home run prone. And in this ballpark, I mean, Cincinnati's a very intriguing stack, and I think Phillips is a nice value one-off.
Definitely. Are we looking at Oakland as a potential target with Nova on the mound, with Chris Coughlin sort of as the cheaper guys, or are we kind of avoiding the A's there?
I like the A's tonight. I like their lefties. I mean, the only downside is Coughlin's that lineup spot. Just in one, he hasn't really performed well. But I mean, a decent track record. I think if you're spinning down, I definitely don't mind him.
And then Starlin Castro, 3,500, I think is a solid play.
Yeah, I like him. Chase Utley, I mean, leading off against Chacin, there's not a bad option either.
Definitely.
Third base here, and this is kind of a spot where I'm not really too inclined in paying up. There's some guys in great spots for cheaper. If you're paying up for one name here, who are you looking at?
I think Donaldson. I think Donaldson would be the one I'd go with here. Nothing against Arenado, but I just like that matchup with Santana a little more than Waka.
Mm-hmm. What about Frazier?
I give Donaldson the slight edge.
I like Frazier a little bit. I think McHugh, I mean, the way he's pitched it, a little bit better ballpark there too. So, I mean, overall, I think obviously Donaldson and Frazier are the two top options on the slate there. I mean, Danny Valencia, I mean, arguing nobody hotter in baseball right now outside of maybe Chris Davis, who's his teammate. I mean, they're absolutely crushing. And,
yeah.
I mean, this is no joke. I mean, the guy has always been able to hit, and he's finally getting time to do it. And still at that price tag, 3,800, in that middle of the lineup, I'm kind of locking him in as well.
Right, you're looking at that upside, and it might be quite a while before he cools off completely. So I think you just kind of ride the streak for now at a pretty reasonable price.
Yeah, and right below him, I really like Jung Ho Kang. I mean, I think because you got Sale, I'm really looking in this 36 range. Fultonio's kind of a lefty guy, but overall, I mean, since 2014, 342 WOBA allowed, so it hasn't been too bad. And also, he still allows a generous home runs per nine. And just with Kang, I mean, career-wise, I mean, obviously, it's just, a year and a month so far for him. But overall, I mean, he's been solid against right-handed pitching.
Right. And I think we say this pretty much every time, but Justin Turner, interesting against Chacin, 3,100.
Yeah, definitely. Just because he struggled with his reverse splits, I mean, he hasn't been too favorable. One guy I kind of like is Jose Ramirez for the Indians there. I mean, it's cheap exposure to that game, which is going to be very high scoring, especially in that ballpark.
Definitely.
So, looking at shortstop, and once again, I mean, we're going back to the Cleveland Indians game. Lindor stands out as kind of that top option out of that top tier price range.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, what Cleveland's been doing in this series has been crazy, and I don't think Edelman's the guy to sort of slow them down. So I definitely like him, and I mean, I think they're a pretty solid stack, even though they're expensive tonight.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Paying down, I don't mind Brandon Crawford and GPPs much for the same reasons that Brandon Belt, 3,600. Crawford's got some solid pop, and I think he kind of be a difference maker without paying up.
Yeah, Rollins too. I like that White Sox team tonight.
Yep, Rollins, solid call there. Zach Cozart continues to be very underpriced on DraftKings. I mean, hitting over 300 this year, hitting for some power as well. So 3,200 just seems far too cheap for Cozart.
And I think Jordy Mercer is a decent option as well.
Looking at the outfield, it's kind of tough to look at these these top bats up here. And Gregory Polanco kind of the only one who stands out as that top option, 5,200. But I can't see that panning out into my laps just because of the pricing of pitchers.
Right. Yeah, that's a tough group to get in there for sure.
Adam Eaton, 4,600, is probably the guy who I'll be paying up for the most, just because of how solid he's been. McHugh's been absolutely rocked, especially by lefties. And Eaton just quietly goes out there and gets it done. I mean, a great cash game guy, but also has plenty of upside.
Definitely.
Anyone else you're looking at in that range?
Um, Again, I know we're okay with Chassin, but I think Jock Peterson's a hot player that is pretty intriguing to me against him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely get some power exposure there. I mean, the Yankees bats aren't priced too badly. I mean, Gardner and Ellsbury. I mean, obviously it's a bad ballpark, but Graveman hasn't been great against lefties, and Ellsbury, I mean, very solid in the month of May since coming back from injury.
Definitely.
Looking lower here, Jay Bruce. I mean, talked about Tomlin. I think him definitely intriguing at 4K. I like that. I think it's a generous price tag for him. Obviously, coming off a big game. But I mean, overall, he's kind of in the midst of one of his usual hot streaks. So kind of get on it before he really cools off.
What do we think about the A's or the Angels tonight? Like, is a Cole Calhoun at 4,100 in play, or are you not really looking at him?
I'm not really looking at him. I think Bruce is kind of the guy I'm on in that range, and I'll kind of spin up an extra 300 to Ellsbury, who's been hot. But I mean, Calhoun's kind of an interesting GPP option, just because he has been coming around of late.
Definitely. And for the Cincy bats, is Billy Hamilton? I mean, he's always got that stolen base upside. Are we worried about Tomlin, or are we playing Rads and hoping they continue this trend?
I'll only play him in the stack, just because he's sitting the top of the line now. I can't get behind him in cash games just because his on base percentage is so low.
Right.
But I mean, in that same range, Michael Saunders, who's been much more consistent in that department, 3,500. I love that price for him there.
Definitely.
He fits in as a perfect kind of cash game outfielder. So, once again, if you have Jose Ramirez, if you're paying up at third base, he's 3,400 out there in outfield. I think he's about as low as I'm going. I can't see anyone really lower that's worth a punt. I mean, Melky Cabrera, 3,100.
Yeah, I was looking in that same range. Austin Jackson, if you're looking for sort of a cheap way to get Chicago exposure.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are very underpriced for that matchup. So that's going to wrap things up here with the DK Daily Trot. Be sure to check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.